So the first most important piece of news here is a huge shakeup at the CDC. Susan Monarez, who had just been approved and confirmed by the Senate just a couple of weeks ago, she's out. And the announcement is kind of confusing. It reads, quote, Susan Monarez is no longer director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We thank her for her dedicated service to the American people. So, of course, this is really confusing because a Senate confirmation is no easy task, and you don't do all this work of getting somebody confirmed by the US Senate to oust them just a few weeks later. So what really happened here? What we do know is that she was walking a really difficult tightrope. On the one hand, she's somebody who's been at the CDC in the past and seems to have a strong fealty both to the institution itself and the science that motivates its work. And at the same time, she's operating under the leadership of RFK Jr. But that put her between a rock and a hard place. So it's not that surprising that, unfortunately, this is the outcome. What do I think about it? Well, Monarez might have been the steadiest hand we could have expected to operate under RFK Jr., and I worry about what this means for the next appointment. Remember, she was the second name floated. The first was a former Congressman, David Weldon, whose nomination was pulled before Senate confirmation. And she's not the only one who's out at the CDC. You also had 3 other high-profile folks resign. First, the chief medical officer. Second, the director of the National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases. And third, the director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Disease. I want to read for you an excerpt from one of those letters. They wrote, quote, I am not able to serve in this role any longer because of the ongoing weaponization of public health. Another wrote, and I quote, the ongoing changes prevent me from continuing in my job as a leader of the agency, and added that science should, quote, never be censored or subject to political interpretations. You can imagine that this is extremely destabilizing, given that just a couple of weeks ago, you had an individual who shot hundreds of bullets into the windows of the CDC, and a brave law enforcement officer who tried to stop him lost his life in the process. The question now is, what next? Who's going to lead the CDC? I worry that the next choice is going to be someone who's much more of a sycophant, somebody who's handpicked by RFK Jr. to just give a rubber stamp to the things that he wants to do through the CDC.